Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, October 17th at 5:45 in the morning. There's only one place I could be heading, York, Pennsylvania, for the York Train Show. So come along with me on my adventures at the York Train Show. Hopefully I leave with all my money still in my wallet.
Little did he know that this simple, seemingly innocuous act would result in his imminent death.
Make sure to use code RJTRAINS at trains.com for $10 off any order $50 or more.
Had to get some nutrition for the ride.
The things I do for model trains. Oh, you just have to love Long Island traffic. This is just New York traffic at its finest. This is supposed to be 2 lanes. We merge down to 1 lane up there. It's just a disaster. You have to do when you enter New Jersey as quickly as possible.
Wait! I have an idea.
Really? What is it?
Let's leave!
One of the greatest cities in the world on the left-hand side. Factory of Sadness on the right-hand side. Welcome to New Jersey. Amtrak across Sawtooth Bridge. How cool is that? So now that it's daylight out and I'm sitting in traffic here in the great state of New Jersey, I just figured I'd talk to you guys a little bit. So for those of you who may not know, the York Train Show is the largest O-gauge train show probably in the country and probably in the world. So twice a year in October and April, pretty much a lot of the O-gauge world gets together, and there are 6 or 7 buildings full of trains for sale, and it's kind of like heaven on earth. I did not want to sit in really bad New York rush hour traffic, so I left a little earlier than I needed to. So the show on Thursday doesn't open up until noon. I should get there a little after 10. So to kill some time, I'm going to meet Chris from RJTRAINS, and we're going to grab some breakfast at the Round the Clock Diner, which is kind of a famous diner in terms of the York Train Show. So I guess it's really not that famous, but that's the fun in this.
We didn't have tornadoes here until we started putting into traffic circles.
So it started off with a great breakfast with Chris at Round the Clock Diner, and then we headed over to the fairgrounds a bit early because somebody, not me, forgot to register for the York Train Show. Eventually noon came around, and of course, first booth I always go to is Trains with a Z to check out all of the awesome stuff they have, and they brought a nice, large, modern collection. Next up was Grzybowski's, who brought a huge display and one of my white whale items. Next, it was over to the Atlas booth to see what their new 2 announcements were. And the center beam flat car is gorgeous. I already pre-ordered 2 of them, and the new Premier boxcar is also looking great. Eventually, I decided to head and get some dinner at Mission Barbecue, which is in New York. It's a chain, but I don't have any where I live. I always make sure to eat there because they support local first responders and veterans, and it's a great cause with amazing food. Headed over to Chris's house where I ran my purchase from Grzybowski's. You'll see it a little bit later on in this video. Woke up the next morning with a couple of friends lying in bed with me. It was certainly a nice wake-up call to hang out with them for a little bit. Headed over to the Trains booth first thing Friday morning and picked up a passenger car I found on Thursday and knew I couldn't let it slip through my fingers. Then we headed over to the Veranda Hall for the YouTube meet and greet. So Eric Siegel from Eric's Trains, Peachy's Trains, Sid's Trains, as well as Art from the 3 Rails 4 Dads podcast. We're all taking questions from the crowd, and it was a great event. Too bad the TCA didn't tell people that it was Friday instead of Saturday. Walking back to the Orange Hall, we stopped in the Purple Hall and saw the Choo Choo Barnes brand new showmobile truck with the layout inside of it, which looks awesome. As well as I stopped to check out the Fordham Creek Railroad, which is a new club that I believe is being started down in the Richmond area. And then the power went out at the fairgrounds Friday afternoon. Shortly after that, we decided to leave, go get some dinner, and then run some trains over at Chris's house. And as you can see, it always goes smoothly. This is the stuff you don't see on YouTube, folks. Then after a nice evening, Saturday morning, it was time to hit the road. Jack? Well, I picked up just a few things at the York show. Let's unbox them. So before I get into showing exactly what I picked up from the train show, I did just want to say thank you for everybody who came up to me and stopped me and told me, you know, how great the layout is looking as we go along in this rebuild, and saying that you enjoy my videos. Hearing that kind of stuff, especially in person, really means a lot to me, and it really gives me the motivation to keep going and keep working on the layout. As you'll see in today's video, when we run some of the new trains around the layout, I haven't done a whole lot of work recently because I was actually in Germany for a couple of weeks last month. So now that it's getting cooler, we'll get back to the layout progress. But I do want to thank a few of my friends for giving me a couple of gifts at the York Train Show. So I want to thank Sean for giving me this conductor hat pin from the Virginia Railway Express. Nice little memento from my DC days. This is awesome. So thank you very much, Sean. Also, from a new friend from the York Train Show, Clay of the Southern Eagle Lines, he gave me this little seat cap from Turner Field, which is where the Braves used to play back in the day. And we have a dog roaming around in the basement, which is why you hear the tippy tapping sound. Also, Corey gave me a little sticker from his channel. Thank you very much, Corey. When I was out in Michigan back in July, I saw these little 3 printed lumber racks on Joe DeLude's layout, who is a member of the Detroit 3 Railers. And he printed some out for me, and these will look great with the Atlas center beams. And last but not least, in terms of gifts from friends, I do want to thank John Retro for gifting me this Weaver Seaboard boxcar and this really interesting paint scheme, just as a thank you for appearing on the Miniature Models podcast a few weeks ago. So I'll leave a link to that down in the description. It's an hour and a half of me talking about a lot of things that I don't normally talk about here on the channel, both my personal life, future stuff going on in the layout, my collection, and why I do certain things the way I do. So if you're interested in that, make sure to go check out the link down in the description. So one of the first items I picked up at York, and probably the least exciting, which is why I am leading off with it, but it is actually a Department 56 ice cream parlor. Now, I obviously don't have any Department 56 buildings on my layout, and I don't really plan on incorporating any Department 56 in the future. But around Christmas time, my mother and I always set up a rather large Department 56 Snow Village display around the house. My family, we are all obsessed with ice cream. So I saw this at one of the tables in the Red Hall, being sold by a member of the New Jersey High Railers. And I just had to pick it up so we could include it in the family Department 56 display. So that's awesome. All right, now we'll get into the train. So the first item I bought at York, I actually bought a few weeks before at the Nicholas Smith 10 sale, but I wasn't actually there at the Nicholas Smith 10 sale. I have to give a special thank you to my buddy Chris from the Lower Susquehanna Valley Model Railroad Club, because he was there and he picked me up this. It is a 4-pack of Lionel 21-inch Long Island Railroad passenger cars. And I passed on these passenger cars in the set when they were first cataloged because it wasn't really a era of the Long Island Railroad I was interested in modeling, but now I am, and hopefully there should be an exciting custom run being announced by Nassau Hobbies later this year. to go with these passenger cars. At least that's what I'm banking on. So let's unbox these cars and take a look at them on the layout. And the next item we're going to talk about here, I actually purchased on Saturday, and this was my last purchase of the show. And I have to give a special thank you to my friends over at trains.com, who not only brought this very hard to find car along, despite it being really new, but also giving me a great deal on it. And I think there might be more of these popping up on their website in the near future, so you might want to take a look out for that. But it is one of the new Golden Gate Depot Viewliner passenger cars. So let me take the lid off here so you can actually kind of see what I picked up. And it is a Viewliner 2 in the Phase 6 scheme. Now, because I'm pedantic, I do have to say that this car is actually in the red, white, and blue Phase 3 scheme in real life. But it'll be a good stand-in for a Viewliner 1 Phase 6 model. This way, I can actually recreate the Crescent, the modern-day Amtrak Crescent consist, which I rode a few years ago. So that'll be really cool, that I'll be able to, recreate a train that I've seen multiple times riding the rails, and a train that I've ridden on overnight. And I've slept in one of these cars that looked exactly like this. So let's take a look at this running around the layout.
Now arriving on track 2, train number 20, the Crescent.
And last but not least, I for at least a 2-minute period on Thursday in the Orange Hall was the happiest person in all of York, because when I walked into Joe Grosbowski's booth and Grosbowski Trains, they always bring one of the largest dealer displays of just trains for sale. And I stumbled upon, I don't want to call it a holy grail because it's a term that us YouTubers overuse a lot, but this is as close as it comes to a holy grail, because these never, ever, ever come up for sale. I've looked every day on eBay and Trains and every single model train auction house you can think of, every day for probably the last 3 years, and have only found one for sale. And even then, it's sold for a ridiculous price. It is the Lionel Legacy Amtrak Day 1 E8s. The black ones from 2021 or 2020. I am the happiest person to have finally been able to find these. So this is the Powered Lights and Sound E8A unit, number 4316. And this was an X-Pen Central E8. I love the blue and white stripes, the pointless Amtrak logo. And then also with the set, you get a second E8. So this one has motors, smoke, lights, but it just doesn't have sounds. And this is an X Seaboard unit. And this just looks amazing. You guys do not understand how happy I am. I have to thank Joe Grosbowski's and Grosbowski's Trains again. for having these here. They came from a collection. I ran them at Chris's house Thursday night, and these things were brand new. So I am extremely happy. So let's get those E8s on the layout, and we'll talk about their history just a little bit more. Now, the story of these E8s are actually extremely fascinating, at least to me. So when Amtrak was created in 1971, they inherited all the old passenger equipment from all of the pre-existing railroads that operated passenger services. So on May 1st, 1971, the day Amtrak began operations, they needed a photo of an Amtrak locomotive to send to newspaper publications. The problem is that no Amtrak locomotives existed because it was the first day. So the Amtrak executives at the time sent workmen down to the yard in Philadelphia where an ex-Penn Central E8 number 4316 was just sitting in the yard and said, paint Amtrak on the side of it. Do something so we can send it to the newspaper publications. In about an hour, they came up with the paint scheme that you see here, and it was sent around to all of the newspapers, and it was the first ever Amtrak locomotive. In a similar vein, the second E8, number 249, was an ex-Seaboard E8 that was patched up for Amtrak and also ran in regular Amtrak services. Although I've never seen pictures of the two of these running together, they're still both really cool. Let's get some passenger cars behind these and fire them up.
This is the dispatcher. Start up and hold. Over. Okay, let's get to work. Out. Dispatcher, ready to roll. Can I pull? Over. Hold for track orders. Dispatcher out.
Finally, a high ball. Let's get her rolling.